Welcome to Daily Meditation with Sangha Live.
And I'm happy to be here with you all again for this week of practice, which is on the theme of practicing insight in daily life. And today we're going to be specifically be looking at insight into the dark night of the soul. So, whether we realize it or not, whether it's something that interests you or doesn't, which is totally fine. When we activate mindfulness, when we take on the practice of mindfulness, we differentiate our awareness, and we are being and being with experiences. We're observing experiences. We are witnessing experiences come and go. When we take on the practice of mindfulness, it triggers off a series of developmental stages of insight knowledge. That the practice of mindfulness triggers a developmental process. When I'm not being mindful, there's no process. When I am being mindful, the process is happening. And that developmental process has been mapped out. Again, this is in Vipassana meditation, the witnessing meditation, where we practice mindfulness. We differentiate our awareness and we observe experience. That's taking the seat of the observer, hopefully the pure observer or the pure witness. With that meditation, with that type of practice, whether you're doing Buddhist practice or Hindu practice or New Age practice, it doesn't matter. When you're doing that, it triggers off this series of stages. And whether you know you're going through the stages or not, you are going through the stages. Whether you're interested or not, it doesn't really matter, because insight unfolds just the way all development unfolds under the right conditions. This practice is called insight meditation because these stages are called stages of insight with knowledge. They are intuitive wisdom into the true nature of reality that unfolds through a series of developmental steps. There are two types of insight. I spoke about this on day one. There's personal insight and there's universal insight. Personal insight is some insight into something about your personal lives. And that can happen in a therapy session. That can happen while you're walking on the beach. It can happen while you're meditating. But it's relative. It's about you and your life. It's not necessarily about me and my life. That's why it's personal. Universal insight is the insights that arise, that it's the same insight that is arising for me as it is for you, as it is for everybody on this call, as it is for everybody in the next room, as it is today, as it will be tomorrow, as it was yesterday, as it was 2,500 years ago when the Buddha discovered this path. It's the same. It's universal. These are the insights that we're talking about in this week's practice. These are the insights that arise in your developmental process when you practice mindfulness. Okay. They start off rather easy. Not easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's not easy at all. They start off rather foundational, which is the differentiation of mind and matter, that the mind can start to differentiate your experience between what's physical and non-physical. When that happens, you start to see cause and effect happening through your experience. When that happens, when that matures, you'll move into process-oriented consciousness, day one, day two. And then when that happens, you'll move into what appeared to be a solid experience will begin to break up in parts, and you'll start to see the fourth insight, which is the rising and passing away. Many peak experiences arise at this stage. I haven't talked about this yesterday. We kind of skipped over that. And we went right to dissolution, how things can begin to disappear or dissolve or fade away simply through our power of observation. That's what we spoke about yesterday. As that matures, and insight is getting stronger in your vidya, sati, samadhi, your energetic effort, your mindfulness, and your concentration begin to mature. And the 7 factors of awakening also start to come online more fully. You will enter into the next stage, which is traditionally called the dukkha jnana stages. There's 3, 4, some people say 5 stages of insight that are rather mm, challenging because these stages are the predominant of these stages. The predominant experience of these stages is dukkha. As I said the other day, the majority of people that I when I work with people, they're still in those early stages. And then the dukkha stage is kind of getting into the deep end of the pool. Um, that's more of an advanced practice. But I think it's good to talk about it today because even though you may or may not be experiencing those stages in the meditation, these stages are a beautiful representation of every letting go process that we have in our daily life experiences. And often they're referred to, these dukkha jnanas are often referred to as the dark night of the soul. And there is very, very much to go into about these stages. I'm going to simplify it. If you are experiencing this in your meditation, or if you've had such an experience like this in meditation, you'll understand it from a meditative point of view. If your practice hasn't really reached those stages yet, no problem. Just keep practicing. Okay. Guaranteed. But even then, you will be able to relate to this in daily life. And this is really one of the powerful experiences of meditation is, you see, going through these stages really develops a specific type of wisdom. It's a universal type of wisdom. And having this kind of wisdom from your internal practice will serve you very, very well in the external world, understanding these stages. And these stages are often referred to or compared to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grieving. You go from denial to anger to bargaining to depression. And then as it matures, when you're finally ready to say goodbye and let go of somebody that is dear and near to our heart, it matures into acceptance. Same thing happens in these dukkha stages at a very, very deep dharma level, a level of ultimate reality. Okay? So let's talk about the dukkha stages. So as your experience of dissolution matures, at the beginning of the stage of dissolution, it's all kind of cool. A lot of interesting phenomenological experiences happening. You're watching things dissolve, and there's really this heightened experience of pure witnessing, and everything that you witness is either on its way to dissolution or is dissolving right before your very eyes. And that's kind of cool at the beginning. It's an interesting, even very satisfying experience. But as that experience matures more and more, the dissolution not only just happens to experiences, sensations in my body, not only happens to my feelings, not only happens to perception, sound, and stuff. They start to go through distortions and even disappearing. Doesn't only happen to thoughts in my mind, doesn't only happen to images or feelings or energy in the body. It starts to happen to me. That the core of the sense of self, the seat of the ego, also starts to dissolve. Okay. And it usually comes on quite strong. In fact, I was just just a side note, I was doing an interview with somebody just a few days ago, talking about their practice. It was really interesting. And then at the end, they said, "Oh yeah, something happened on my last retreat I want to ask you about." And they described the experience, which I won't go into, but then they had the dissolution of self happening. And immediately there was a fear towards that experience. And then there was a continued fear of having that experience again. Oh my God. It's natural, You burned once, twice shy. You burn your tongue on a hot cup of tea, you're going to be very cautious with tea for the rest of your life. Experience like that happens. And in a way, the mind, the self doesn't want to go there again. And this is exactly what happens as we enter into these dukkha stages. The very first experience that we have when the sense of self at the level of dissolution goes so deep that it dissolves, disappears, pops. And it's not just things popping in my experience. It's me. The everybody's the same because it's a universal insight. The natural reaction to this, the first time it arises, is there's a recoiling. It's like, oh no. You touch the hot stove, it's like, oh no. Now, without a little bit of kind of theoretical understanding, our practice should be a combination of experiential practice and theory, map and territory. Without a little bit of theoretical understanding, you might never want to, you might avoid that, even unconsciously avoid that experience for the rest of your meditation career. But the fact is, the more you meditate, the more your practice will take you to that practice, to that experience, because that's the next stage on the path. That's the passage that you must go through to continue along the path. And the basic feeling is a recoiling. It's a recoiling of an experience. And usually this insight knowledge is called fear. Usually fear is considered ignorance because I'm afraid, there's a group in the other room, they're going to be too loud, or I rescued a cat. So there's a little cat running around here making noise. I'm afraid that it's going to interrupt the call. All that fear is based on delusion. This fear, this recoiling that arises, is called insight. It is intuitive wisdom because it is based on the deeper, truer nature of reality. True liberation is the pathway towards true liberation. So there's a recoiling experience. If you have the wherewithal, the patience, the capacity to, my cat's the capacity to stay with the practice, to stay mindful. The practice that took you there is the practice that will take you through it. Mindfulness leads you to it. Mindfulness will lead you through it. The recoiling kind of reaction starts to calm down. And as the practice matures, recoiling will shift to resistance. So there's no longer physically or energetically or emotionally trying to deny the experience. But now that you're with it and you keep seeing this dissolution of the sense of self again and again and again, it shifts into a resistance of reality. Reality is saying, at a deeper level, reality is saying, keep practicing meditation and conform with me. The remnants of the self are saying, no, I don't want to conform with that, which is totally fair because conforming with that means that this has to let go. First, that happens through recoiling, but then as we sink deeper into it, we go from the insight to fear, we go into the next insight. The energetic feeling of the next insight is resisting. It's like, okay, we tell ourselves we're accepting it, but actually really, we're still resisting it. This cat. It was a rescue, yeah. So she's a little bit nervous. She's still a kitten. And she has a little bit nervous energy, but she's been calming down over the last week I've had her. So anyway, she might make some noise here. Forgive reality. The cat's kind of walking around the back of the computer, deciding if it wants to come to the front. What do I do? Do I control the cat? Or do I accept it, as long as she doesn't disrupt? So we go from recoiling to resisting. Oh, that cat. At least come say hi. You don't understand. People love cats. So does that make sense? We go from recoiling to resisting. Now, if we manage to stay mindful of the recoiling, that will mature until we can stay mindful of the resistance. We're not trying to change it. We're not trying to run away. We're just being we're not judging the resistance in the mind. We're just and what we're resisting is the true nature of reality. And it's quite natural. It's precognitive. As we move from recoiling to resistance, As that matures, it will move more into resignation. It's like we see again and again and again that the true nature of reality is in constant dissolution. There is nothing, all this grasping and clinging that my mind does, there is quite literally nothing I can hold on to. There is no security anywhere. There is nothing to ultimately rely on. Everything I grab and I hold to rely on, my things, my toys, my possessions, my people, me, it's all just slipping through my fingers. From recoiling to resistance to resignation. This is the inner journey of the dark night of the soul. This is the journey into the belly of the well. This is the ego death experience followed by the rebirth. And the resignation is that insight stage of kind of depression, not that insight stage, the Kubler-Ross stages of grieving, denial, anger, bargaining, and then you've got depression. So the resignation can be quite a depressing experience. It's actually called, the insight knowledge itself is called dispassion. And it's just, there's no interest arises in anything, but it's not from ignorance in a Buddhist sense here. It's not, I don't become apathetic because I'm seeing the world incorrectly, nihilistically. We don't become apathetic through nihilism. We start to understand that everything my whole life, my whole existence has been grasping and clinging onto is not secure. It's not stable. It's unreliable. And the grasping and clinging nature of the mind at a very, very, very deep level begins to let go. And then you're in resignation. What took you in will take you through the moment-to-moment mindfulness of rising phenomena in the body, in the feelings, in the perceptions, in the mind, and in consciousness. Simply being mindful will continue to lead you through, mature through this process. From recoiling, if we go into it, it becomes resistance, mental resistance. From resistance, I'm there with it, but I don't really accept it yet. If I go all the way with it, it becomes resignation. If I stay mindful through that phase of resignation, there will be the next stage, which is coming out of the dark night with rebirth. The phoenix rises again from the fire. Recoiling, you hear there's none. Resistance, or, the kind of, how do I manage all this? How can I control this? How can I make my life more safe or whatever? Resistance. And then you realize that, oh my God, I'm trying everything I do, everything I just keep ending back up in this same place. Resignation. It can be very depressing. God bless it. But when it's happening in meditation, it's wisdom. Allowing it, staying there, being with it, and being patient, persistent, and practicing with perseverance will come out of it with renewal, with rebirth. These are the phases of the dark night of the soul. These are the phases of the dukkha jnanas. We've gone high in the peak experiences. We've gone very low. We've hit bottom, recoil, resist, resign, renew, reborn, rebirth. Then there's a climb to equanimity. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So I suspect that many of us here have not really experienced these stages in the meditation yet. It's fine. Reflect on whatever's coming up in your, be mindful of whatever's coming up on your practice. Reflect on these. If it's arising in your practice, or it has in the past, reflect on how it affects your practice. But especially reflect on this in life, in daily life. The world is really upside down right now. Certainly for me, where I'm living. Tough, dark times. Oh my God. Belly of the well, dark times. Oh my God. How are we going to go forward? The Dhamma perseveres. The Dhamma perseveres. I'll take the question after the meditation. Okay. So let's go into our practice. Since we've covered quite a bit of territory, I'm not going to walk us through the territory, but really just speak about the method that we're using to trigger off this series of insight stages. Okay. And one kind of centering thought for us before we begin: whatever's arising in your meditation practice, should be considered as your path. Welcome everything, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Whatever's arising in your practice should be considered as your path. So, turning in, take a moment to check in with your body. As you check in with your body, let the mind be and be with, observe, witness the predominant experience in your body. Your attention might naturally go to the breath. There might be a sensation. There might be an itch. There might be some pain or discomfort. Whatever's arising, allow the mind to go there and know the experience directly. For example, if it's an itch, know the experience as an itch. As you stay mindful of the itch, know the deeper qualities and characteristics that start to appear. It's a pinpointed prick, or it's moving across there's a line moving across your skin, or it's very subtle, or it's very strong. Where the mind starts to react. An intention to itch arises in the mind. All of these things that's arising, simply with differentiated awareness, observe, know their qualities and characteristics. And as you continue to observe the quality and characteristics, know what happens to changing. Is it staying the same? If it's changing, is it becoming less intense? Is it becoming more intense? Is it moving? Is it throbbing? Is it flashing? Is it dull? Is it hard? Is it soft? There's so many qualities, so many different characteristics that the mind will naturally register simply by gently holding your mindfulness on the experience. Being and being with the experience, knowing it with mindfulness, knowing the deeper qualities, knowing the characteristics, and knowing what happens. As in the body, so in the mind. Should desire arise in the mind, or aversion, or resistance, or should planning arise, or questioning, or reflecting on the talk that I gave? Should judgment about others arise, or judgment about yourself? This is all naturally arising phenomena in our meditation practice. Whatever arises is to be considered as your path. And the practice on the path is to differentiate your identity from what arises and observe what's arising at a phenomenological level. Being and being with. And in the being with, let your knowing of the experience deepen. Letting the breath be your home base, and being mindful of each breath in each moment by moment, breath by breath. Bring your mindfulness back to the body. Feel the body. Bring your mindfulness back to the breath. Feel the breath. Bring your mindfulness to the mind and know your mental states. Feel the space on the inside. And as you slowly open your eyes, coming out of the meditation, feel the space on the outside around you.
Today's podcast is an offering to you from our archive of freely available live daily classes. We make wisdom teachings and meditations as freely available as possible to as many people as wish to practice. You can help ensure we can continue to support a worldwide Sangha by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, by sharing this with someone who'd be interested, and by offering a small financial support at sangha.live/donate.